The nurse almost got fired for breaking hospital rules just to help a homeless man everyone else ignored. He had no ID, no insurance, not even shoes. Before leaving, he looked at her and said just 6 words that made no sense at the time. "Thank you. They'll come for me tomorrow." She thought he was confused, but the next morning, the entire hospital froze when the sound of military helicopters filled the sky, and armed soldiers started asking for her by name. The emergency room doors slid open at 2:17 a.m. Rain hammered the glass like it was trying to break in. 2 paramedics wheeled in a man who looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. His beard was matted, his clothes were soaked and torn, one shoe missing. Blood on his sleeve, not fresh but not old either. He collapsed near Route 9, one paramedic said. Probably another overdose. A few nurses exchanged tired glances. "Does he have ID?" someone asked. The paramedic shook his head. Nothing. Not even a wallet. That was the moment the energy shifted. No ID, no insurance. No next of kin, which meant paperwork, liability, administration, and at County Memorial that meant trouble. 24-year-old nurse Elena Carter stepped forward anyway. "I'll take him," she said quietly. One of the senior nurses pulled her aside. "Elena, we're already over capacity, and administration's been clear about non-paying cases. He's hypotensive." Elena replied, "And he's not overdosing. Look at his pupils." The older nurse hesitated. Elena was new, 6 months out of nursing school. Still had that thing in her eyes, belief. "Fine," the senior nurse sighed, "but you're responsible for the chart." Elena nodded. As they moved him into Bay 4, she noticed something strange. His hands. They weren't the hands of a typical long-term homeless patient. No needle marks, no tremors, no severe frostbite damage. Instead, they were calloused in a very specific way, like someone who had held something heavy, something mechanical. Repeatedly, she pushed the thought away. Focus. His vitals were unstable, internal bleeding suspected, bruising across the ribs, a deep laceration near his shoulder. "Sir, can you hear me?" she asked. His eyes fluttered open. They weren't confused. They were sharp, scanning, calculating. For half a second, it felt like he was assessing the entire room. Then his gaze softened when it landed on her. "You're safe," she said gently. A faint breath escaped him, almost like a restrained laugh. "Am I?" he whispered. Before she could respond, he winced in pain. Elena worked fast. Fluids, pressure dressing, oxygen support. The ER physician stepped in, glanced at the chart, then at the patient. "Another transient," he muttered under his breath. Elena ignored it. As she cut away the man's soaked jacket, something heavy slid from the inner lining and clattered to the floor. Metal. Not a weapon. A small circular object. Elena bent down. It was a coin. But not just any coin. It had an emblem engraved on one side, an eagle gripping something sharp, surrounded by Latin text. The doctor barely looked at it. Probably stole it. Elena didn't answer. Something about the man's posture, even while unconscious, didn't match the narrative everyone else had already decided for him. When she leaned closer to adjust his IV, he suddenly grabbed her wrist. Fast. Strong. Too strong for someone supposedly weak from collapse. His eyes locked onto hers. "If anyone asks," he whispered, voice strained, "you didn't see me." Elena froze. "What?" "They'll come," he breathed. "Tomorrow. Who will?" But he was already drifting again. The doctor raised an eyebrow. "What was that about?" "Delirium," Elena said quickly. She didn't know why she covered for him. She just did. By 5:40 a.m., his condition had stabilized, internal bleeding controlled. No major organ damage. Whoever he was, he had survived something serious. As Elena finished charting, she hesitated at the name section. Unknown male. Age approximately 40. No identification. She glanced at the coin sitting in a small plastic evidence bag on the counter. For a split second, she considered Googling the emblem. But hospital Wi-Fi was monitored, and she didn't want questions. Instead, she slipped the coin into her scrub pocket. Just for safekeeping, when she returned to check on him, his eyes were open again. More alert now. "You kept me here," he said quietly. "Yes." "Why?" Elena shrugged. "Because you needed help." A long silence. Most patients thanked her. He didn't. Instead, he studied her face carefully. "You're young," he said. "I know. You break rules often?" She stiffened. "I follow patient care protocols." A faint smirk touched his lips. "That's not what I asked." Before she could reply, footsteps echoed down the hall. Hospital administration. Right on schedule. The night supervisor stepped into Bay 4, clipboard in hand. "Elena," she said sharply, "this patient has no insurance and no identification. We can stabilize, but we are not absorbing extended care costs. Transfer paperwork needs to begin immediately." He was watching everything, listening. "We can't transfer him yet," Elena said. "He's not stable enough." The supervisor lowered her voice. "You're new, so I'll explain this once. We don't carry financial liabilities like this. Arrange county transfer." The man's jaw tightened slightly. Elena felt something shift inside her. She had taken an oath, and she wasn't going to start compromising 6 months in. "I'll take responsibility," she said firmly. The supervisor blinked. "Excuse me? I'll handle the paperwork. I'll stay late if I have to. You'll be written up." Silence. The supervisor finally turned and walked out. The room felt heavier afterward. The man looked at her differently now, not assessing, not guarded, almost impressed. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly. She crossed her arms. "You shouldn't have been bleeding out in the rain." For the first time, he actually smiled. A real one. Then his expression grew serious. "You need to listen to me carefully," he said. Her stomach tightened. "What?" His eyes flicked toward the window. The storm had stopped. The sky was turning pale blue. "They'll come at sunrise," he said softly. "And when they do, they won't be gentle." Elena swallowed. "Who are they?" But before he could answer, the power flickered, just once, then went out. The entire wing fell into darkness, and in the distance, she heard something she couldn't explain. A low, rhythmic vibration, faint, but growing louder, like thunder. Only controlled, deliberate, coming from the sky. At first, Elena thought it was her imagination. The vibration was faint, subtle, like distant construction, but it didn't stop. It grew louder, stronger, closer. She stepped toward the window of Bay 4, her heart beginning to race. And then she saw it. A black helicopter. Low, too low, hovering directly above the hospital parking lot. Its rotors sliced through the morning air with mechanical precision, kicking up dust and debris in violent spirals. "What the hell?" she whispered. Within seconds, a second helicopter appeared behind it. Then a third, all matte black. No hospital markings. No news logos, no visible identification at all. This wasn't medical transport. This was military. Behind her, the heart monitor beeped steadily. The man in the bed was awake now, watching her. "They're early," he said quietly. Elena turned sharply. "You knew this would happen." He didn't answer directly. Instead, he slowly removed the oxygen cannula from his nose, wincing slightly as he sat up straighter. "You need to listen to me," he said. Before she could respond, the hospital intercom crackled to life. "Attention! All personnel remain at your stations. Security protocol in effect. Repeat, remain at your stations." The voice wasn't calm. It was controlled panic. Footsteps thundered down the hallway outside. Not normal footsteps. Heavy, coordinated, boots, multiple. Elena's stomach dropped. Through the glass doors of Bay 4, she saw them. Men in full tactical gear, black uniforms, helmets, vests, moving with absolute precision, not rushing, not hesitating, owning the space. Hospital security trailed behind them, looking completely powerless. One of the tactical officers spoke briefly with the hospital administrator near the nurses' station. The administrator's face turned pale instantly. He pointed down the hallway, toward Bay 4, toward her. Her pulse spiked. "They're here for you," the man said calmly behind her. She turned to him, her voice barely steady. "Who are you?" He met her eyes, and for the first time she saw something raw there, not fear. "I was hoping they wouldn't involve you." Before she could process that, the bay doors slid open. 2 tactical officers stepped inside. Their presence filled the room instantly. Controlled, alert, professional, not aggressive, but not friendly either. One of them removed his helmet. He was older, late 40s, hard eyes, military posture. His gaze went straight to Elena. "Nurse Elena Carter," he asked. Her throat went dry. "Yes." He nodded once. "Step away from the patient." Her instincts flared immediately. "No." The word came out before she could stop it. The officer didn't react emotionally, he simply observed her. "That wasn't a request," he said calmly. Elena stood her ground. "He's still under medical care." The officer's eyes flicked briefly toward the man in the bed. Something passed between them. Recognition, respect, not hostility. That made it even more confusing. The officer turned back to Elena. "You provided treatment at approximately 2:23 a.m., he said. "You stabilized him, prevented internal hemorrhaging." Her heart pounded. "Yes." He nodded again. "Good." That was not the response she expected. Behind him, more tactical personnel secured the hallway. Hospital staff watched from a distance, whispering nervously. The administrator rushed forward. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "You can't just enter a civilian hospital like—" The officer held up a hand. The administrator stopped talking instantly, not because he was forced to, because something in that gesture carried authority that couldn't be questioned. "We're operating under federal jurisdiction," the officer said simply. "Federal." The word echoed in Elena's mind. The officer stepped closer to her. "You broke protocol," he said. Her stomach dropped. You chose to treat him anyway." She nodded slowly. He studied her face carefully. Then, unexpectedly, he extended his hand. On behalf of the United States military, he said, "Thank you." Elena blinked. "What?" The administrator looked like he might faint. The officer lowered his voice. "Your actions prevented a situation with significant national consequences." This didn't make sense. She glanced back at the man in the bed. He was watching everything silently. No surprise, no confusion, just quiet acceptance. "Who is he?" Elena asked. The officer hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty crossed his face. But before he could answer, one of the other tactical soldiers rushed into the room. "Sir," he said urgently. The officer turned. "What is it?" The soldier leaned in and whispered something into his ear. Elena couldn't hear the words, but she saw the reaction. The officer's entire body went rigid. His eyes snapped toward the bed, toward the man. Except the bed was empty. Elena's heart stopped. Just seconds ago, he had been right there, weak, injured, recovering. Now, gone. The IV line hung loose, the monitor wires disconnected, the window slightly open, curtains swaying gently in the morning air. Impossible. He shouldn't have even been able to stand. The officer moved instantly. "Secure the perimeter," he ordered sharply. Soldiers mobilized without hesitation. The hospital erupted into chaos. Elena stood frozen. He was here. He was right here. And now he was gone. The officer turned back to her slowly. His expression had changed completely. Not anger, not blame, concern. "How long was he conscious?" he asked. I don't know. He was weak. He shouldn't have been able to." She stopped. Her scrub pocket felt heavier suddenly. The coin. She had forgotten about it. Her fingers instinctively moved toward it. The officer noticed. His eyes locked onto her pocket. "What do you have?" he asked. Her pulse roared in her ears. Slowly, she reached in and pulled it out. The coin caught the morning light. The officer's face changed instantly. Shock, real shock. He stepped closer. "Where did you get that?" he asked. "He dropped it when we admitted him." The officer stared at it like it wasn't possible, like it shouldn't exist. Around them, soldiers searched the hallway. Radios crackled. Orders flew. But in that moment, the room felt silent, heavy. The officer looked back at her, his voice lower now, more serious than before. "Do you understand what you've done?" "No." He nodded slowly. "That's probably why he trusted you." Before she could ask what that meant, a voice came through the officer's radio. "Urgent. Sir, we have visual." The officer grabbed the radio. "Location." A pause. Then, "Roof." Elena's heart nearly stopped. The roof? He was on the roof. In his condition. The officer looked at her one last time. "Stay here," he said, but Elena already knew she wasn't going to listen, because somehow she knew. Whatever was happening, it wasn't over, and deep down she had a feeling he wasn't running away. He was waiting. Elena didn't think. She moved. By the time the officer and his tactical team stormed into the stairwell, she was already behind them. Her heart slammed against her ribs with every step upward. This didn't make sense. He was barely able to sit up 10 minutes ago. He was bleeding. Weak. He shouldn't even be able to walk. Yet somehow he had climbed 5 flights of stairs. The heavy door to the rooftop burst open. Cold morning air rushed in instantly. And there he was, standing at the very edge of the hospital roof, his back to them, his posture steady, balanced like he wasn't injured at all. Below, the city was just waking up. Cars moved like ants. People lived their normal lives, completely unaware of what was unfolding above them. The helicopters hovered nearby, their rotors roaring like controlled thunder. But he didn't flinch. He stood there like he belonged in the storm. The officer stepped forward slowly, his voice calm, respectful. "It's over," he said. The man didn't turn around. "No," he replied quietly. "It isn't." Elena watched, her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't fear. This was something else, something heavier. The officer took another step. "You shouldn't have left the room." A faint smile touched the man's face. "You shouldn't have come." The soldiers behind the officer held their positions. No one raised a weapon. No one treated him like a threat. They treated him like something far more complicated. Elena couldn't stay silent anymore. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice trembled slightly in the wind. The man froze. For a moment he didn't move. Then slowly he turned, and for the first time since she met him, he stood fully upright. No weakness, no instability, no pain. Just control. His eyes met hers. And in that moment, she understood something that terrified her. He had never really been weak. Everything she saw had been controlled. Intentional. Carefully measured. "You should have let me go," he said softly. Elena stepped closer despite herself. "You were dying." He shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "I was surviving." The officer stepped forward again. "Sir," he said firmly, "we need you to come with us." "Sir," the man glanced at the officer. "You found me faster than expected. We've been looking for you for 36 hours. 36 hours. Elena's mind reeled. That meant he hadn't been homeless. He had been missing. The officer's voice hardened slightly. "Things have escalated." The man's jaw tightened. "I figured." Elena looked between them. "What is happening?" she demanded. "Someone needs to explain this." The wind whipped around them, carrying the thunder of helicopter blades. The man looked at her again, like he was deciding something important. "You saved my life," he said simply. She swallowed. "Yes." He nodded once. "Which means you're involved now." Her heart skipped. "Involved in what?" The officer stepped in. "That's classified." The man raised a hand slightly. The officer stopped talking immediately, just like the administrator had earlier. Elena noticed. Whatever authority this man held, it outranked everyone here. He reached into the pocket of his torn jacket. Elena tensed instinctively. But he only pulled out something small. Another coin, identical to the one she held. He turned it over in his fingers briefly, then looked at her. "Do you still have it?" he asked. She nodded slowly, holding up the coin she had kept. His expression softened. "That coin," he said, "was never supposed to leave my possession." Elena's fingers tightened around it. "What is it?" Then said quietly, "Proof." "Proof of what?" He looked out at the horizon briefly, then back at her, "That I existed." A chill ran down her spine. The officer spoke again, more urgently now. "Sir, we don't have time." The man nodded faintly. He stepped away from the edge of the roof, closer to them, closer to Elena. Up close she could see the dried blood on his shoulder, the bruising along his ribs. He had been hurt. Badly. But somehow he was still standing stronger than anyone else here. "You showed me something last night," he said to her. She frowned. "What?" He met her eyes. Kindness without questions. Her throat tightened. "You were hurt. That's enough reason." He studied her face for another long moment. Then he said something that made her entire world shift. "My name," he said quietly, "is Daniel Cross." The officer closed his eyes briefly, like the confirmation carried weight. Heavy weight. Elena waited, But nothing happened, no recognition. The name meant nothing to her. She shook her head slightly. I don't understand. Daniel nodded. I know. He gestured toward the helicopters. They weren't sent to rescue me. Her heart skipped. They were sent to contain what happens next. Before she could ask what that meant, one of the soldiers rushed forward suddenly. Sir. Everyone turned. The soldier held up a tablet device, his face pale. They found them. Daniel's entire body went still. His voice was calm. Where? The soldier swallowed. They're already inside the city. Elena felt the air leave her lungs. They? The officer cursed under his breath. Daniel looked at Elena one last time, his voice softer now. You need to leave. What? Why? Because if they realize you helped me, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. The implication hung heavy in the air. Danger. Real danger. Not hospital politics. Not paperwork. Something bigger. Something she couldn't see yet. The officer stepped forward urgently. Sir, we have to move now. Daniel nodded slowly, but his eyes never left Elena's. Thank you, he said. Not like a patient thanking a nurse. Like a soldier thanking someone who had changed the outcome of a war. And then, far below, in the hospital parking lot, a loud explosion echoed. The rooftop shook beneath their feet. Smoke rose into the morning sky. Elena gasped. The soldiers instantly raised their weapons. Chaos erupted, and Daniel Cross didn't look surprised at all. The explosion echoed through Elena's bones, not loud enough to destroy the hospital, but loud enough to send a message. Smoke curled upward from the parking structure below, black and violent against the pale morning sky. Elena stumbled back instinctively. What was that? She gasped. The tactical soldiers moved instantly, surrounding Daniel in a tight protective formation. The officer grabbed his radio. Report! Static crackled. Then a strained voice responded. Vehicle detonation. Lower garage level. No casualties, but it's a breach. Elena's heart pounded harder. Daniel didn't react like a victim. He reacted like someone who had expected it. They found me, he said quietly. The officer looked at him sharply. How? Daniel's jaw tightened. They always do. Below them, sirens began to rise. Police, fire, emergency response. But Elena noticed something strange. The tactical soldiers weren't relieved. They were tense. More tense than before, like the explosion wasn't the attack. It was the warning. Daniel turned to Elena suddenly. You need to listen carefully, he said. She nodded, her mind struggling to keep up. You were never supposed to be part of this, he continued. You were just supposed to help someone in need and walk away. I tried, she said. But you didn't let me. For a split second, regret flickered in his eyes. I know. The officer stepped closer, his voice low and urgent. Sir, we have transport ready. We need to extract immediately. Not escort, extract. Daniel glanced at the helicopters hovering nearby, then back at Elena. There's something you deserve to know, he said. The officer stiffened. Sir, Daniel raised a hand, and once again the officer fell silent. Elena felt her pulse echo in her ears. Daniel reached into his jacket slowly. Carefully, he pulled out something thin, a small worn leather sleeve. He held it out to her. She hesitated. What is it? Take it. She stepped forward cautiously and accepted it. Inside was a photograph, old, faded. It showed Daniel standing beside 5 other men, all wearing military uniforms, all younger, all serious. Behind them was a helicopter, black, unmarked, just like the ones hovering now. They were my team, Daniel said quietly. Elena looked closer. There was something different about the photo. No rank insignia, no branch identifiers, no names. Just 6 men, invisible. Where are they now? She asked softly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. His silence was answer enough. Gone, she realized. He nodded faintly. The officer spoke, his voice heavy. Daniel Cross was the leader of a Tier 1 Special Operations unit that officially never existed. Elena blinked. Tier 1. She had heard the term before. The most elite military operators in the world. Their missions were classified beyond standard clearance. The officer continued. No records, no recognition, no protection. Elena looked back at Daniel. You were special forces. He shook his head slightly. Not exactly. He paused. We were ghosts. The word hung in the air, real, terrifying. Invisible soldiers, sent to places no one could acknowledge. And now? Elena asked. Daniel's expression hardened. Now I'm the last one left. A chill ran down her spine. What happened to your team? He hesitated. For the first time since she met him, he looked human, not controlled, not untouchable. Just a man carrying unbearable weight. We completed our final mission, he said quietly. And someone decided we knew too much. Her stomach dropped. They tried to erase you. He nodded once. The officer added quietly. Officially, Daniel Pross died 36 hours ago. Elena froze. Died. But you're standing right here. Daniel gave a faint, bitter smile. Not officially. Understanding hit her all at once. That's why you had no ID. Yes, that's why no one could find you. Yes, that's why they sent helicopters. Daniel nodded. Not to rescue him, to control the situation, to protect the last ghost. Suddenly, Elena remembered something. The explosion, she said. That wasn't you. Daniel's eyes darkened. No, they're here. He didn't need to explain who they were. The people who erased ghosts, the people who finished missions permanently. The officer's radio crackled again, urgent, multiple unidentified vehicles approaching perimeter. The officer cursed under his breath. They're faster than expected. Daniel exhaled slowly, not fear, acceptance. He turned to Elena one last time, his voice calm. You saved my life, he said. She swallowed hard. I just did my job. He shook his head slightly. No. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. You chose to see me when everyone else saw nothing. Her chest tightened. For the first time, she understood the weight of that choice. He wasn't homeless. He wasn't helpless. He had been hiding, surviving, running from people powerful enough to erase his existence. And she had stepped directly into his path. The helicopters shifted position behind them, ready, waiting. The officer spoke urgently. Sir, we need to move. Now. Daniel nodded slowly, but he didn't move yet. He reached forward and gently pressed the coin into Elena's hand. You keep it, he said. She stared at it. I can't. You already did. She looked up at him. What happens now? Daniel glanced at the horizon, at the city waking below, at the unknown threat closing in, then back at her. Now, he said quietly, they stop hunting me. Before she could ask how, gunshots echoed from inside the hospital, sharp, close, real. The soldiers reacted instantly, weapons raised. The officer grabbed Daniel's arm. We're out of time. Elena's heart slammed. They were inside. Whoever they were, they had come to finish it. And suddenly, saving a homeless man didn't feel like an act of kindness anymore. It felt like the moment her life split into before and after. The first gunshot froze Elena where she stood. It wasn't distant. It wasn't muffled. It was inside the hospital. Close, real. Final. The tactical soldiers moved instantly, surrounding Daniel in a protective shield, weapons raised, eyes sharp, breathing controlled. The officer grabbed his radio. Contact confirmed. Hostiles inside the building. Elena's hands trembled. This wasn't supposed to happen. Hospitals were safe places, not targets. Daniel didn't look surprised. He looked resigned. They came faster this time, he said quietly. The officer turned sharply. We can still extract you. Daniel didn't answer. His eyes were on Elena. You need to go, he said to her. She shook her head immediately. No. His voice hardened slightly. Elena, I'm not leaving you. The words surprised even her. But they were true. She had made a choice the moment she refused to transfer him. And now she understood what that choice meant. Daniel studied her face carefully, like he was memorizing it. Footsteps echoed below, fast, organized, coming up the stairwell. The soldiers tightened their formation. One of them whispered urgently, "They're coming up." The officer turned to Daniel. "We don't have time." Daniel nodded slowly. He reached into his jacket again. This time, he pulled out something different. A small, black, rectangular device. No markings. No screen. He held it in his palm for a moment. Then he looked at Elena. "There's a reason they want me gone," he said. Her throat tightened. "What reason?" He placed the device in her hand. It was heavier than it looked. Cold. Important. "This contains everything," he said quietly. Her heart raced. Everything. Proof. Proof. The same word he used before. Proof of what? His eyes darkened. Proof that ghosts exist. The stairwell door below slammed open. Voices echoed upward. Closer now. The officer stepped forward urgently. "Sir, we have to move now." Daniel ignored him. His focus remained on Elena. "They erased our missions. They erased our existence." Elena tightened her grip on the device. "Why give this to me?" His answer came without hesitation. "Because you're the only person who saw me as human." Her chest tightened painfully. Gunfire erupted again below. Louder. Closer. The soldiers responded instantly. Returning fire, the rooftop filled with controlled chaos. The officer grabbed Daniel's arm. "This is over. You need to come with us." Daniel pulled free. "No. Sir," Daniel's voice was calm. "Certain. If I leave with you, they'll never stop hunting. That's our job. We protect you." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No." He looked at Elena, then back at the helicopters. "They're not here for me." Understanding hit the officer instantly. His face went pale. "No," he said quietly. "You don't mean that." Daniel didn't respond. He stepped back, toward the edge of the roof. Elena's heart stopped. "What are you doing?" she whispered. He looked at her one last time, his expression peaceful. "Free." "They can't erase a ghost," he said softly. Another burst of gunfire echoed below. Time was gone. He met her eyes. "You gave me something I haven't had in a long time." Her vision blurred with tears. "What?" He smiled faintly. "A choice." The officer stepped forward desperately. "Daniel, don't." Daniel's eyes never left Elena. "Live your life," he said, and before she could move, before she could speak, before she could stop him, he stepped backward and disappeared. The world stopped. Elena ran to the edge, her heart screaming in her chest. She looked down, expecting to see nothing, no body, no impact, just empty air. The helicopters roared louder. The officer grabbed her arm gently, pulling her back. "It's over," he said quietly. Her voice broke. "What happened to him?" The officer didn't answer immediately. He looked out at the sky, then said something she would never forget. "Men like Daniel Cross don't disappear." He paused. "They become legends." 3 weeks later, the hospital returned to normal. No helicopters, no soldiers, no gunfire, just patients, paperwork, routine, like nothing had ever happened. But Elena knew better. She sat alone in the break room, staring at the coin in her hand. She had tried searching his name, nothing, no records, no history, no proof, just like he said, a ghost. The black device he gave her sat locked in her apartment, untouched, waiting, proof of everything, or proof of nothing. She didn't know yet. She wasn't sure she wanted to. Some truths changed lives forever. As she stood to leave, a new patient was wheeled past her. Older man, injured, weak, alone, no ID, no insurance, no one claiming him, the staff whispered, just like before. Elena stepped forward. "I'll take him," she said, because now she understood something most people never would. You never know who someone really is, or what they've survived, or what they're running from. Sometimes, the person everyone ignores is the one who changes everything. She slipped the coin back into her pocket and went to work. If this story moved you, imagine how many real heroes walk past us every day, unnoticed, unrecognized, forgotten. Sometimes one small act of kindness doesn't just save a life, it reveals a legend. Subscribe now for more powerful stories about the hidden heroes living among us, because the next legend might be someone no one else sees.